The cover of One Punch Man Chapter 212 immediately caught fans' attention. The art featured a rather distracting shot of Tatsumaki, while King, Genos, and Saitama were fooling around in the pool. But beyond that playful scene, the real story unfolded elsewhere. Sweet Mask decided to reveal his deepest, darkest secret to Saitama. He confessed that his transformation into a monster had begun years ago, triggered by his hatred of his own appearance. That curse reshaped him, twisting his body into something monstrous. At first, he despised it, but with time, he turned the situation into an advantage. With his new stunning looks, he quickly became a national icon. Offers from entertainment companies flooded in, his face spread across billboards, and he became both a popular celebrity and an admired hero. This rise was the complete opposite of how he was treated in the past. Back then, when he was ugly, society completely ignored him, no matter how many but once he became beautiful, people adored him without hesitation. Sweet Mask realized firsthand that physical appearance has a frightening power to influence the judgment of others. And before long, he fell into the same trap himself. He feared ever showing his true face and clung desperately to the illusion he created. Yet recently, things had grown worse. He admitted that the monsterization was no longer limited to his body. It was creeping into his mind. His brutality during the incident with Narinki's private squad proved just how far he was willing to be. Sweet Mask explained that his ability to
not a human being, he's an animal. Over 100 people dead.
Scared him. In dangerous scenarios, he no longer hesitated. He would immediately choose to save the greater number, even if it meant coldly sacrificing the few. That ruthless practicality even shocked the sadistic monster doers. Sweet Mask admitted that he only pretended to struggle with these decisions. In reality, he wasn't fazed at all. He feared that if things continued this way, justice itself would become nothing more than an empty slogan to him. Eventually, he would lose sight of what it even means to be a hero. And so, while a fragment of humanity still remained within him, Sweet Mask decided he needed to find someone who could inherit his ideals. And the only candidate he saw fit was Saitama. Sweet Mask anxiously asked Saitama if he could understand his mission. But instead of a serious reply, Saitama seemed distracted. His focus was on a bird dropping on the glass window. Undeterred, Sweet Mask pressed on. He explained that Saitama was the world's only true hope. His strength was exactly what humanity needed. But when Saitama finally responded, it wasn't what Sweet Mask expected. The bald hero apologized and declined. All the talk of popularity and fame sounded like nothing but trouble to him. He was sure there had to be someone else better suited for the role. This answer stunned Sweet Mask. He jumped up and shouted, asking if Saitama was really satisfied with his current situation. After all, he was stuck with a humiliating hero name like Caped Baldy. The public didn't celebrate him. Most either didn't know he existed or assumed he was a fraud. Sweet Mask guessed that Saitama didn't even get fan letters, which was true, as we saw after the Deep Sea King incident. Sweet Mask insisted that it wouldn't take much effort. With just a little care for his appearance, Saitama could instantly become the world's #1 hero. He'd receive mountains of fan mail, endless signing lines, contracts with every major company, and the attention of top celebrities. Sweet Mask even revealed a flashy model of a new look he designed for Saitama. A dazzling, stylish image, though still bald. But Saitama remained unmoved. He told Sweet Mask bluntly that if he followed such a plan, he'd just become a puppet. Then, more seriously, he asked if a true hero should really be defined by what others think. Wasn't it more about who they actually are, rather than how others see them? After all, we're all human, Saitama added. Those words pierced Sweet Mask, but at the same time, he realized Saitama hadn't really absorbed anything else he had said. In typical fashion, Saitama then casually asked for the time, since he didn't even own a phone. Sweet Mask told him it was nearly 4 p.m., and in an instant, Saitama blurred into motion. He remembered he promised King that they'd hang out and needed to leave right away. Sweet Mask tried to stop him, but Saitama had already forced open the locked door. On his way out, he told Sweet Mask that if he ever wanted to grab lunch again, just let him know. But right now he was in a hurry, and with that, Saitama was gone in a flash. Sweet Mask was left behind, disappointed but unwilling to give up. He knew this was a crucial time. If the hero association he helped build was to survive in the new era, it needed someone to keep it steady, with or without him. Left behind in the quiet aftermath of Saitama's sudden exit, Sweet Mask sat in silence. The room felt oddly empty, as if Saitama had taken all the air with him when he burst through the door. For the first time in a while, the idol hero had no one to perform for, no audience to charm. He was simply alone with his thoughts, and those thoughts were darker than ever. He replayed Saitama's words again and again. Isn't it about what they are, rather than how others see them? After all, we're all human. Those words carried a simple wisdom, the sort of thing Sweet Mask couldn't easily ignore. Yet they also cut deep. To him, appearance had always been everything. Without it, he was invisible. With it, he was worshipped. Could someone like Saitama, who didn't care about image at all, really be the type of hero the world needed? Sweet Mask rubbed his temples, sighing. His monstrous side ached to lash out, to reject Saitama's philosophy as naive. And yet, a small part of him envied that carefree indifference. He wondered if maybe that was why he had chosen Saitama in the first place, not just because of his strength, but because of his freedom from society's chains. But before he could sink too deeply into reflection, faint noises drifted from outside. At first, he assumed it was a crowd gathering for some hero association event. Maybe fans cheering for another hero. But when he listened closer, the sound was off. Too sharp, too panicked. His eyes snapped open. Those weren't cheers at all. They were screams. Sweet Mask stood instantly, his body tense. He hurried to the window and looked down, only to freeze in shock. Below, chaos reigned. Security guards were already down, sprawled across the ground like broken dolls. And towering above the terrified civilians was a bizarre figure, a clown. This clown was unlike anything Sweet Mask had seen before. His painted grin stretched unnaturally wide, his eyes gleaming with a manic hunger for attention. Every movement was exaggerated and theatrical, like he was performing on stage. He hopped erratically, springing higher and higher into the air until he cast a looming shadow over the crowd. Each bounce drew screams from the people trapped beneath him. The clown thrived on it. He fed off their fear. He spread his arms as if basking in applause, even though the only sounds were shrieks of terror. "Look at me," his twisted body seemed to say. "Fear me. Watch me." With gleeful malice, the jester pulled out a massive mallet, raising it high above his head. His target was clear: innocent civilians, families, children, people who had no way to defend themselves. And then, before the mallet could fall, a hand stopped it. Sweet Mask was there. His grip was iron, his expression hard. Gone was the conflicted idol wrestling with his identity. In that moment, he was the executioner of justice. With sheer force, he shoved the weapon back, smashing it into the clown's painted face. The crowd gasped. The clown stumbled, his grin twitching as cracks appeared in his mask-like features. This was no ordinary fight. It was the clash of two performers. One who manipulated image for adoration and another who used it for fear. Both understood the power of perception. But while the clown twisted it into horror, Sweet Mask demanded it serve justice. Yet even as he stood tall, Sweet Mask felt something churning inside. Was he fighting to save people, or was he fighting because he couldn't stand being upstaged? The monstrous thoughts whispered in the back of his mind, reminding him how thin the line had become. Meanwhile, far away, Saitama probably didn't even know any of this was happening. To him, Sweet Mask's monster identity mattered as little as bird droppings on a windowpane. That indifference wasn't ignorance, it was perspective. He judged people by their core, not by how they looked, not by what others thought of them. And in that sense, Saitama was already the kind of hero Sweet Mask could never be. The chapter closed on that chilling cliffhanger. The clown, though battered, began to laugh even louder. His jumps grew more erratic, his laughter more unhinged. The crowd trembled. Sweet Mask's eyes narrowed. He couldn't let fear win. He couldn't let this monster steal the stage. Whatever doubts plagued him before, now only one thing mattered: crushing the clown before he destroyed everything. Whether it was justice, vanity, or monstrous instinct that drove him, only the next fight would tell.